Hello, good afternoon to you if you're just joining us. I think it's fair to say that things are hotting up now in the Labour leadership campaign when she was the first to announce that she was standing, and she's here with me now. Liz Kendall, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
We'll talk lots more in a few seconds, and people can call you as well and put their thoughts, their questions to you. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. And this all happens on the day the Labour leadership hopeful Andy Burnham has said calls from his rival's camp, at least, if not directly from her, from Yvette Cooper's camp, for him to quit the contest are disappointing and quite strange. A spokesman for Ms Cooper said he should step aside if he is prepared to offer an alternative to Jeremy Corbyn. Liz Kendall, are you becoming tired of the sort of repetition of the name Corbyn every time any of you are interviewed, because he seems to be just dominating the narrative still?
No, I'm not tired of that at all. I think it's really important that this debate is happening. I think it was inevitable that it would come out. I think it's been bubbling for a long period of time. I think what I do get tired with is this debate should have been about, the big issues we've got as a country. I know you've talked a lot about your experiences of the care system and how important it is to change the way we provide help to families who are looking after their loved ones and get the care system to work better. That is a massive issue. 1 in 3 babies born today is going to live to 100, and what does the Labour Party have to offer for the future for those families? So I wish we could have talked more about the problems that we face as a country and the massive opportunities. And I'm going to try and do that. I'm giving a speech later on this evening where I actually say, look, these are the big challenges for the country. What does the Labour Party have to offer for the future? Because I think probably a lot of party members are sick of all the talk about the process and want to get on to the issues.
Let's talk about some of the issues. I was going to leave it till later, but you've raised it. So let's talk about some of the issues now. And those 1 in 3 babies who are going to live till 100. Some of those families who you've said you want to talk about how you will help those families. Well, opposing the welfare bill might have been a start, but you didn't. Why didn't you?
I think Harriet Harman was right when she said a lot of people didn't vote for Labour because they didn't trust us on the economy and with their taxes, and they didn't trust us on welfare. And I believe that if you're going to oppose something that this government is doing, you should set out an alternative. And I don't want to see working tax credits cut from poor and low-paid families. So I said that we need to look at the £100 billion a year we spend on tax reliefs, some of which are good, some of which aren't. If we took them back to the levels they were in 2010, we'd save £10 billion, and I'd use that money to actually restore the working tax credits for families. But we've got to set out an alternative, because otherwise people will think we're a party that just believes in spend, 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 not setting out something credible.
But the problem with not opposing it is that we had just come out of a general election. Inevitably, in the lead up to a general election, a party presents its vision, it presents its costings, it presents its welfare policy. Mm-hmm. So you had one.
If I was Labour leader already, I'd have set out precisely how I would have opposed what the Tories doing.
And would it have been markedly different to Ed Miliband's? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because I believe I'm in favour of welfare reform, but in the right way. I want to see people who can work get the help they need to do so. I think the government's work programme is rubbish. It's not helping people to work in my constituency, and I've said it shouldn't be run by central government. Let's give all the powers over work and employment and skills programmes to local communities, because they know best what help and support they need. And over the last Parliament, we spent 95% of all government spending on housing was spent on housing benefit, and only 5% on house building. We've got to change that. So if I'd been Labour leader, I would have set out a credible alternative that helps people who work to do so and actually provides some decent support for those who can't work. Was
it very frustrating being in the party when Ed was leading, if you disagreed with so much of what he was saying, it seems?
I thought we didn't do anywhere enough to defend the good things we did in government, to set out a credible economic alternative. But I tell you that the most important thing that Ed said that I believe was right was that most people weren't seeing the benefits of growth in the economy way before the crash. I think he was absolutely right on that. And this evening and over the course of this campaign, I've been setting out how I think we can change that.
Of course, he hasn't backed you. I don't think he's backed anybody, has he, Ed?
No, Ed hasn't come out and
David
said anything
did.
about this.
Did it matter to you that you got the support of figures like David Miliband?
Yes,
Why?
Because I think David Miliband has made a huge contribution to our party, including in government. He is a champion of equality and opportunity and fairness, and I'm very pleased I've had his support.
Is it etiquette that stops Ed Miliband from saying who he'd support? Or is that... will he have been told that so soon after this defeat it would just be the kiss of death?
I've no idea. If Ed was around, you could ask him. I don't want to speak for Ed on that subject. I think it's difficult because many people are in the party, senior politicians and former politicians, really want to get out and make the case. But honestly, I think most people want to hear the candidates in this leadership contest and a next generation of politicians make the argument. I think we have to move on from where we were in government. We need a new set of voices making the case for Labour.
But I'm just keen to mine a little bit that situation, because we've all been there at work where we disagree with the leadership, and we all have to make a judgment about the degree to which we speak up about it. Yeah. But I'm just curious about, because Andy Burnham has said the same, given examples of when he was a junior minister in health and he didn't speak up about the level of privatisation because he didn't feel he was in a position to do so, and yet lots of people will wish heartily that he did at the time. When you had concerns over policy and over the tone and the direction of the Labour Party before the general election, to what degree did you speak up?
I've always spoken my mind, and I always will do.
But privately as well as in those parliamentary sessions?
In private, because it is a tough gig being a leader. Ed deserved our support and he got it. And I believe in collective responsibility, and I desperately wanted a Labour government.
Did he listen? Because Ken Livingstone said something interesting at the weekend when he was talking about what a Corbyn-led party would look like. He said he thinks it would be a more collegiate, a more democratic party, and he felt that for the past 20 years the Labour Party has been, from within, has been a very top-down affair with policy and decision-making handed down to backbenchers.
We always discuss things, actually. Ed was very open and fair in our discussions in Shadow Cabinet and listened to different people's views. But in the end, he took the decision. He was the leader. He deserved our support and he got it.
Has anyone senior in the party or an obvious envoy from someone senior in the party spoken to you about pulling out? I said at the beginning you were the first person to announce, and you seem to be the person who every day has been asked to pull out.
No one's asked me to. In fact, I've precisely the opposite. I've had a phenomenal amount of support from MPs, including MPs who didn't nominate me in the leadership contest, and from party members and councillors and council leaders saying, stay in the race, fight for what you believe in, provide a voice for people in the party who are desperate for us to win again, but also set out an alternative to where we've been for the past 5 years, because that's what I think the next Labour leader needs to do. Not just, you know that I'm not agnostic about Jeremy Corbyn becoming leader, but it's not simply a matter of
hang on,
that's
a double negative. I'm not agnostic.
I don't want to see Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party.
Thank you.
Because I think we'll lose again, and I can't bear to see 15 years in total of a Tory government, because I've seen
what's so bad about him. Tell me what's so bad about him and his ideas.
The way that we create the jobs that we need in future is by backing modern manufacturing, IT, science, our creative industries. I don't believe it's by, reopening coal mines or nationalising swathes of the economy. The way that we really change our public services so they work better for people isn't by centralising power. I really want to get so much power out of Whitehall and down to our cities, towns and counties and communities too. And I believe that we should have a strong role in Europe, not prevaricate on whether we should remain part of the EU, and I definitely don't want to see us withdraw from NATO.
If he wins, though, what will the party be like in 6 months from now? Will it be one you can stay in? Will it be bruised,
Oh God,
battered?
I'd never leave the Labour. It's my party. It's my party. I could no longer leave the Labour Party than my own family.
But you wouldn't work under him, would you?
I don't think he's offered me a job.
But if he did, would you? I mean, no. I know this is all ifs, buts, and maybes.
No, I wouldn't. And actually,
so you wouldn't leave the party?
No,
Would
never.
you leave? Would you leave Westminster?
Well, not so long as the good people of Leicester West
all being well,
as their Labour MP. I love my job. That is my paid job, being the MP for Leicester West, and I love it, and I'll always do it so long as people give me their support.
You said nobody senior in the party has come and said, now look, with this Corbyn situation arising, it would be better if ... What about the three, you and the other two non-Corbyns?
I think they're called Andy.
I know they are. Would you know what I mean in this context?
Yes,
would you have spoken?
We're quite different ourselves, actually.
Have you spoken to? I know you are. But would you have spoken?
We've not discussed any of us. Pulling out.
You keep a kind of healthy
like
distance because you're campaigning against each other.
No, we're all pretty straightforward with each other. I've worked with both Andy and Yvette over many years, but we haven't discussed that.
Can you envisage a situation where somebody in your campaign team sends out a statement calling for Andy Burnham to quit because he hasn't sufficiently challenged Jeremy Corbyn?
No. Look, we're all in the race. Do you know what? I'm not actually focused or interested in what the other campaigns are doing. They will fight this campaign how they see fit to fight it. But
you'd be chastising someone if they'd done it in your camp, would you?
Well, they wouldn't, because we agree our strategy, and mine is to say I don't want us going back to the politics of the 80s, but we've also got to move on from where we were over the past 5 years. Labour's got to move on from where we were in government, and we have got to focus on the things that matter to the public. So much of this leadership campaign has been an internal discussion. The real discussion we should be having is with the public, trying to regain our economic credibility and having a message that is for everyone. I think our message was far too narrow last time, and we only win elections and change the country when we have that broad coalition support.
Well, that discussion with the public is about to begin because the calls are coming in thick and fast. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call if you want to put a question or a thought to Liz Kendall. You can watch it online as well, lbc.co.uk. You can tweet every which way to be involved and to get in touch. You can tweet at LBC, you can text 84850, and if you do want to talk directly to Liz, it's 0345 6060 973. This is Sheila Fogarty on LBC. It's 2:15. Liz Kendall is here in the studio with me at LBC, Labour's leadership candidate, one of the four, MP for Leicester West and Shadow Minister for Care and Older People. 0345 6060 973. If you want to call, you can watch this live online as well, lbc.co.uk. David is called from St Albans. Hello, David.
Yes, good afternoon. Hi.
Fire away. What question did you want to put to Liz?
Well, I just wanted to say to Liz that, the narrative that, that the reason the Labour Party lost the election was actually because it was too left-wing. It's disproven by what happened in Scotland, where they tried to oppose austerity and won all the seats in Scotland. If Labour had offered a real vision, an alternative to what Cameron was offering, Labour would be in power now. The sad fact is it went along with the austerity narrative, something that Liz obviously still supports and thinks that welfare cuts are okay, and that any socialist would support that. I mean, is beyond belief. We don't support.
So you are, David. Given that I'm looking for questions, is your question why didn't you tackle austerity more?
Well, the point is that Liz hasn't got anything to offer, and basically Jeremy Corbyn is offering a real alternative for the first time ever. I rejoined the party to vote for him, and as many hundreds of thousands of other people have done. And the reason he's winning is because Liz and the rest of the candidates have got nothing new to offer. We've got more of the same to look forward to. Austerity light. And if I want Tory policies, I'll vote for the Tories.
All right, David, let Liz respond to that. Liz Kendall.
Well, David, I don't agree with that analysis. I was in, I grew up just near St Albans in Abbots Langley, and I was in Bedford this weekend speaking to party members from St Albans, Watford, Bedford, who said to me, candidates who lost, who said the big problem was people just didn't trust us with their money or on the economy, and they didn't trust us on issues like welfare. They thought that Labour's solution was just to throw money at problems, and that businesses didn't support us and we didn't sound like we were for people who wanted to get on. Now, the reason I'm in politics is because I want to see a fairer and more equal society. And I believe I am offering something new. I want to see an end to the inequalities that begin before children even start school. I wouldn't be doing an inheritance tax cut for the wealthy few like the Tories. I'd be putting that money into early years services instead.
But you don't think the 50p tax rate should be permanent, do you?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because the evidence is that it hasn't brought more money in. And actually, I believe in a fair tax system, but it should be for a purpose. And the way that we're going to deal with the problems that we've got as a country is to make sure we create the high-skill, high-wage jobs of the future. We've got to focus on an alternative to the Tories that is credible, because if people don't trust us on the economy, we won't be elected and we won't be able to make the changes we want to see.
What about what David said about coming to the party because of that new system of voting? He did it because he wanted a say, and he wanted that say to be pro-Corbyn. Do you and do others in the party regret that system was brought in?
No, I don't. And, it's great that David's joined or rejoined the party. There are many thousands of people like him who are supporting Jeremy Corbyn, and many thousands of others who've rejoined the party because they're or joined as supporters because they're desperate for us to get elected and want us to be both credible and radical. And I would say to David, the reason why I'm doing this is because there are millions of people who depend on having a Labour government. And the really radical vision I have is for far more power to be put into people's hands in the workplace over their local public services. I don't want power centralised in Whitehall. I want to put it into people's hands, and that is a radical vision for the future.
But all politicians say that. Let me put you through to Andy
I know they
in Lancashire. But you're the only one that means it. Andy in Lancashire.
Well, I've campaigned for it for over 20 years, so...
Andy, fire away with your question to Liz Kendall.
Yes, hi Liz, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi,
My name is Andy. I live in Southport in Merseyside, and I wanted to ask you quite an emotive and quite a personal question from my point of view. My mother travelled to the Swiss-assisted dying clinic in Switzerland in 2013 to end her suffering with Huntington's disease, and my brother and I travelled with her to support her in her wishes. Now, in light of Lord Faulkner's assisted dying bill, which will be heard again this year, I wanted to ask you openly, Liz, if it's something that you support and will support and push for a change in the law to allow a terminally ill person with less than 6 months to live to end their suffering in their own home. In my mum's position, she didn't have a terminal illness per se, but there was no cure for Huntington's, and her standard of life was horrible. Most recently, poor Bob Cole has just travelled only last week to the Swiss-assisted dying clinic, and I wanted to ask if you would support the bill, with it being a Labour bill.
Liz Kendall.
Yes, Andy, I will be voting for it.
Fantastic.
It's it's not a whipped vote, as we call it. It will be up to MPs to vote with their consciences, and I think I know a lot of people are concerned about this, and they're worried that maybe pressure will be put on people. But I believe the safeguards in the bill are strong. There has to be a diagnosis of terminal illness, and that the person is expected to have 6 months or less to live. It has to be certified by 2 doctors, and there'll be judicial oversight to make sure that they're not under any pressure.
And you're comfortable with that as it stands at the moment?
I am. As I had a constituent myself who, I went to see him, and he was desperate, and he talked me through it, and I believe in people giving people as much power and control over what happens to them as possible, and I think that's right at the very end of life, as well as through all cages.
Obviously, you don't share the conversation, but did that conversation with your constituent change your mind, reinforce a view? I think it probably reinforced a view, and it won't be right for everyone. A very dear friend of mine has just looked after her dad for 7 months, and in fact it's his funeral tomorrow that I'm going to be going to, and I know how hard it is for families, and many do want to let the illness take its course, and as people need the ability to die in their own homes, but I also believe that this bill would be a step forward. As a country, we don't talk about what might make a good death, and it's something other countries, I believe, may be more open about. So Thank you for your call, Andy, and yes, I will be voting for that bill. Kevin in Croydon has called. Kevin, put your question to Liz.
Hello, Liz. I'm an ex-Labour Party member who will rejoin the party when Corbyn wins. The big problem for most people, I think, with politics in general, is that people feel that that politicians are just PR persons for financiers who will tell us what money can and can't be printed, and the all-important thing is that their system must be seen to dominate the entire world, and many of us just don't accept that, and we don't accept the kind of politician that actually just kowtows to this mentality of we've got to be, because these banks are broke anyway. The financial system is completely broke. It's a scam. It's a con. It's a load of nonsense. Just after the Second World War, when we had no money, we created the National Health Service. That's why Mr. Corbyn is so popular.
Okay, let Liz respond to that. We're having a lot of calls from people saying similar things to Kevin. Obviously, we can't put everybody on, but how often on a daily basis are you hearing from people what Kevin is saying?
I think people are really hacked off with all politicians. They're angry.
How do you deal with that?
How
do you deal with that? Face to face with person after person after person saying, you're not the answer, Corbyn is the answer.
It doesn't stop me from arguing what I believe in. I have a very strong sense of responsibility to people who depend on us to give them hope. And no banker has ever told me what to think, what to say. And if they did, I'd tell them where to go. I have never held back from saying what I think. Sometimes that's got me into trouble, but I'll continue to make the case. And I am as angry about what's happened with the banks and large corporations screwing the system and not paying what they owe. And I want to see responsibility from the top to the bottom of society. But the way that we can achieve that is actually by winning, kicking the Tories out, getting into government and making changes.
But when people hear you say that, and then I'm sorry to hop on about the welfare bill, but for example, the most vulnerable could say, but you still sat back and didn't oppose this in the here and now. I'm sure strategy and policy has to be developed and all of that, but in the here and now, as people live with those difficulties,
we opposed
they want you to get yourself into trouble. They want you to fight for them.
Over the last 5 years, we opposed. And as I said, I did say I wouldn't support the cuts to working tax credits, and this is how I would pay for them. But I believe I'm actually the real anti-austerity candidate, because I'm going to be the person who the Tories fear, who's going to kick them out, who's going to regain our credibility on the economy and set out a vision that most people can feel part of, so that we win an election and can stop the Tories from doing all this damage. I don't just want to protest, but I want to actually change things.
There isn't a Tory in the land who'd rather you won over Jeremy Corbyn winning.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, there's been a survey of 50 Tory MPs just published today, and it says that 2/3 would fear me as Labour leader most. Good, they should.
What about the personal side of this? I asked you off air before we came in, before we came on air, if you're enjoying this, and you seem to be. And you said you love people, you love talking to people, you love being with people.
And I love debate.
What about the personal element of it, though? You've had personal attacks,
yes.
You've had weird comments, you've had completely unnecessary
I wouldn't
intrusions.
call them weird. I'd call some of them
downright rude.
Yeah,
and intrusive.
unbelievable.
How's it? You can handle that?
Oh yes.
Because
I'm a tough cookie. And the reason that I've called out some of the vile stuff on Twitter and social media is because...
And in some interviews.
I mean, ridiculous questions being asked that would never be asked of male candidates is not for myself, because I can handle it. I don't want people being frightened about speaking out, worried about saying that they have a different view, and I don't want women to be put off from going into politics because they fear they're going to get asked all sorts of questions about their personal life, what they wear, how much they weigh, and all that rubbish.
The Labour Party used to be, I don't know from the inside whether it still is, but it used to be a very male affair. Some great dames like Barbara Castle, of course, Bessie Braddock, one of my personal favourites, but
Betty Boothroyd.
Yeah. And great, strong women, but it's been a very male party in lots of senses over the years.
Politics has, over many years been very male-dominated, and I'm really proud of the Labour Party. We brought in all-women shortlists.
But hasn't there been in the tone of this campaign, all right, girls, you've had your fun, now let Burnham and Corbyn battle it out? It's been there.
Yes, and I ignore it. I'm not going to quit. Yvette's not going to quit. I might be biased, but I think it's about time we had Labour's first woman leader and first Labour Prime Minister who's a woman too.
And listen, on a lighter note, let's finish on a lighter note. You do know that the timing is perfect if, and obviously I'm not wishing this on you, but if you don't win, the timing is perfect for a dancer of 16 years to go on Strictly.
Strictly.
Would you love it?
Yes.
I knew you'd say it. I would love the lessons and wouldn't have the bottle to do the Saturday night stuff. I
love it.
I suspect you would have the bottle to do the Saturday night stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Liz Kendall, for joining us and for taking your calls. Sorry we're not able to get more calls to you, but we'll carry on the conversation ourselves in your absence. Many thanks. The time is 2:32.
Do you think it would be a good thing if, as our party, we said we will assist the Middle East peace process by giving recognition to Palestine in order to bring about a co-determination, to bring about a long-term peace and hopefully end the siege?